Welcome to the 2025 Dialogue, a masterclass series by the HR Association of India. I'm Neha Jagnani, and today's session focuses on a theme that is reshaping how trust, culture, and accountability show up at work. Today's topic is radical transparency and the new social contract of work. To help us unpack this timely and thought provoking theme, we are joined by Sahil Nayar. He's an HR disruptor who loves blending data with intuition, strategy with storytelling, and innovation with impact. Whether he's shaping talent strategies, mentoring future leaders, or challenging the status quo, he does it with wit, wisdom, and a relentless drive to transform the way we experience work. He's an award winning HR professional, an author, a podcast host, and an happiness coach. He's been recognized over 50 times for his contribution to the field. When he's not decoding workforce dynamics, you will find him on a mountain trail or cruising through Mumbai on his Royal Enfield. He is the HR Bites guy. Sahil, thank you so much for joining. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much, Neha. And as we wind down for the year 2025, I'm extremely happy to be on the dialogue once again.
Thank you so much. Pleasure having you as always, Sahil, and I look forward to this exciting masterclass. So, to begin with, my first question, Sahil, is what does true pay transparency look like beyond just posting salary ranges? And how can it become a catalyst for building trust and closing equity gaps?
Well, I think that's quite a loaded question, Neha, because you actually packed in three or four questions. But before I get to answering that, I think it's very important for us to take a step back and understand the evolution that we have gone through, right? If you look at the industrial age, where maybe our grandparents, great grandparents were, to where we are today, which is the tech and the social age, right? Each one of us carry what we call as a social equity, correct?
Right.
So Neha knows of Sahil, but Neha also knows Sahil because Neha has spent enough time interacting with Sahil, having moments of truth. So beyond just Sahil's LinkedIn or Facebook or X or what have you, there have also been in-person stroke online conversations that have happened in depth. Now, I don't think any organization goes out posting salaries, but I think your question essentially is a very powerful question because we realize that for the longest time, organizations keep telling everybody that this is private and confidential. You're not supposed to share your offer letter with anybody. You're not supposed to share your increment with anybody, right? Because it's very personal to you. But we've also seen that whether it is market intelligence, whether it is natural curiosity, or whether it is about, I will never feel bad if I just got a 10% increment. But if I get to know that everybody else around me has got more than 10%, but my rating is that of a strong performer, I will then realize that I was given the rating to keep me happy, but the rewards don't seem to match the rating. And when the rewards don't match the rating or the performance, is where the gap begins. And therefore, many a times employees in organizations that are futuristic very confidently ask management or HR these questions. And in organizations that are more redundant or more of the past, they end up having these conversations as water cooler conversations or gossip, right? And some of the thoughts that really play in my mind right now as you ask this question is number one, how is it that two people are paid differently for the same role? आप काम वही कर रहे हो मगर दो लोग को अलग अलग पे मिल रहा है. And many times organizations justify it to say, oh, but when this person came in, this person was at a higher comp, so therefore we had to pay them more. Or the skill set that the person brings is different, and therefore we pay them more. Or this person has a certain level of understanding stroke potential, and therefore we pay them more. But the reality is they're still doing the same job. So just to break this down, because I know HRAI masterclasses are viewed by even students and senior professionals, think of it like a classic example. Your WC is not working and a plumber is called. Now, you may have a plumber who has gone to a school and learned the entire art. And you may have a plumber whose father was a plumber and who has been a plumber for the last 30 years. Now, the question is both of them are still fixing your WC or your flush, but yet you pay them differently because of experience versus no experience versus, but at the end of the day, they're just fixing your flush. Now, you need to realize that if I'm fixing my flush, do I pay 100 rupees versus 500 rupees for just fixing the flush? Or if I am going to, let's say, a coronary art surgeon, and there's someone who's done 5 surgeries in the last 1 year since the person has passed out versus someone who's done 500 surgeries in the last 20 years. Now, because the skill needed there is very specialized, and there is risk, and there is health involved, and there is a life involved, differential pay makes sense. But just fixing a flush and paying 5 times more because of experience doesn't make sense. Now, I've had to contextualize this example to organizations. अगर आप दो अलग लोग से वही काम कराने वाले हो, and just because you're paying more for experience, I sit back and ask the question, are you hiring right? Because if you're not hiring right, then you will end up paying more for the same job. That's just the starting of the problem. This problem compounds and the gap keeps increasing when you end up paying more and more for the same job, and the senior professional ends up hitting what we call as the ceiling, because you're paying more and more for doing the same thing because skill sets are not improving and person's doing the same job. The second question that we need to ask ourselves is what behavior is getting rewarded? Are we rewarding loyalty? Are we rewarding merit? Are we rewarding bias? Are we rewarding affinity to a certain leader? Because that also plays out as far as compensation is concerned. And the other part of the spectrum is what will not get rewarded, irrespective of how loudly you shout or how long you stay or how charismatic you are or what amazing executive presence you have. So we see many a times between letter and spirit what really plays out, because if what is getting rewarded is not what is getting recognized, and there is a very thin line between what is getting rewarded and what's not getting recognized, we realize that the gap will increase, gossips will increase, assumptions will increase, and trust will go outside the window. So not an easy problem to solve, Neha, but I think there are multiple facets to it.
Sure. Thank you so much for beautifully breaking it down, especially the two examples. Really, really thought-provoking, Sahil. Thank you so much. My next question, Sahil, is how do we build a culture where psychological safety isn't just a buzzword, but it's a core business metric that leaders are held accountable for?
Yeah, I think this is a very important aspect because I have seen so many leaders in the short career that I've had, and I continue. But I think, Neha, the difference that I have seen between nice leaders and safe leaders. There are some leaders who want to be popular. And when they want to be popular, they're trying to be nice because Neha should like me, Ankita should like me, Rohan should like me. These are the entire narratives. So in my head, every decision that I take is going to be driven by the fact, will my popularity quotient go down or not? Right? And therefore, even if there is a situation, I will first think, how do I continue to remain popular? Because if I'm not popular, then other aspects of my nature, talent will get exposed. Because then they'll start finding faults. They will say, oh my God, competence is an issue. Oh my God, this person's leadership style is an issue, so on and so forth. Then there's the second kind of leaders, what I call as safe leaders. These are the kind of leaders who create psychological safety at work. These are the kind of leaders who actually at times they display what I call as tough love, right? So if they even have to communicate a tough message or give feedback, you will realize that because psychological safety has been well established, even if they tell you something, you know that they're telling you or giving you that feedback for your own good because they want you to be a better professional. They want you to improve your craft. They want you to be more effective. They don't want you to make the same mistake again. They're saying within the team, you said this, that's fine. But in front of business, let's not do that. Or in an external forum, let's not do that. So these are the kind of leaders who allow you to fail. These are the kind of leaders who allow you to make mistakes and very quickly self correct. There is no better feeling in the world than self correcting. मैंने एक गलती करी है, आप आके मेरे को बताओ साहिल ये देखो आपने गलती करी है, versus मैंने गलती करी है but you are equipping me with the skill for me to in 10-15 seconds realize, hey, really sorry, yeah, I know I made this mistake. So self realization and self correction ends up happening in an environment where there is psychological safety. Because I'm not worried that someone's judging me. I'm not worried that someone is actually saying, oh my God, how can Sahil make a mistake? Sahil is human. He can make a mistake. And I think that's where the play lies, Neha.
Sure. Thank you so much. Beautifully put. So there are nice leaders and safe leaders. One distinctive difference is that the nice leaders are often popularity driven, while the safe leaders they have this tough love display quality, and they allow you to fail and correct yourself. So thank you so much. Beautifully put. My next question, Sahil, is as organizations become more decentralized and remote, how can HR use radical transparency to maintain a cohesive culture and a sense of shared purpose?
Yeah. I think this is very, very important, and this will continue being more important as we move into 2026 and beyond. For a very simple reason that the Gen Z that we have at the workplace expects much higher amounts of radical transparency than any generation so far. For a very simple reason that decisions can no longer be whispered, they got to be documented. Because a Gen Z is very, very quick and very smart to go back and have the courage to say, hey, but last Monday you said this, now you're changing your stance. I want to know why. Versus we never really saw this in the past. Even if someone had understood that, they didn't really call it out as much. Second, context travels faster than rumors. The moment you sit back and explain context to say, hey, yes, last Monday I took this decision. Now I am taking a different stance, maybe even contrary to what I decided last Monday. But this is the context. In this context, in this situation, in the last 1 week, this has changed. Here is why we need to do this. That will travel far more faster than rumors would. And if employees are able to understand why something happened, even if they don't like why it has happened, is a far better situation to be in than employees not knowing why something happened and not liking it. Right? So think of this like a simple 2 by 2. Employees know what happened, employees don't know what happened. Employees like what happened, employees don't like what happened. And you can simply realize which box you should be in as an organization. Because if you're in the wrong box, you may end up coming and saying, oh my God, there is a lot of demand supply issue, we have attrition. But possibly the reason for attrition is not outside your organization, it is sitting within your organization.
Sure.
So go back and decide which box in the 2 by 2 do you want to be.
Sure. Thank you so much. So, Gen Z, as you rightly mentioned, it is crucial for them to have this radical transparency. Very beautifully said that context actually travels faster than humor. And lastly, it's much better to know the flaw in the system than not knowing what's happening. So, thank you so much. My next question, Sahil, is if the next generation of talent demands to know a company's stand on social and political issues, what is HR's ethical responsibility in shaping and communicating those values?
I think HR has a very, very strong responsibility when it comes to shaping values and living the culture. Because when you ensure that the stated values match the behavior on the floor, you're actually walking the talk. Otherwise, these values could be beautiful printouts that are put on the walls in meeting rooms. But when people walk into the meeting room, they actually laugh because they say, hey, what got discussed in this meeting is so contrary to to what's on the wall, right? So I think ensuring that that happens, and that has two parts to it. One, ensuring that behavior that is not in line with values is actually reprimanded. Because if you don't reprimand that behavior, it will repeat itself. If you don't call out the hypocrisy, and I'm not saying go and shout on across town saying, oh my God, our leaders are hypocrite. That's not the way to do it. There are different forums, there are different ways to do it, there are different ways to have one-on-one conversation, saying, hey, you know what? I just think that this meeting didn't go the way we wanted it to go. You asked me to say something, but you, as my boss, went and said something else in the meeting. What was on your mind? I want to understand. So it's not just about picking up a fight, it is also about taking a softer approach of saying, I want to understand. Because when you want to understand, you will actually create a space for respectful dissent. And creating a space, we spoke about psychological safety a while ago, creating a space for respectful dissent. I can respectfully disagree with you and say, Neha, I think you have a fair point, but I took this decision because I have more visibility on a certain issue than you have. And I think dynamics would play out in this manner. And therefore, I respectfully dissent with you. But I'm taking the time and the effort and the energy to communicate that to you. I am not allowing space for ideological bullying. And many times, we let this pass. But the fact of the matter is that that is where the trust deficit begins. Because in your mind, Neha, you will start thinking that we prepped for this meeting in a certain manner. We thought this is how we will communicate with the stakeholders. But my boss just goes and does something completely different and doesn't even explain it to me. And then says, and Neha, oh, why did you not send this report? We discussed this yesterday. And you'll say, but before the meeting, you told me not to send the report. You told me that you will manage the situation. And now in the meeting, you're telling me, why did you not send the report? Now, that is ideological bullying. That is actually going and not just throwing a team member under the bus, but this is actually trying to use a strategy without aligning a team member that will eventually lead to trust deficit. Because at the end of the day, today's generation isn't looking for perfection. They do understand there will be gaps, they do understand there will be improvement. But what they are simply asking for is honesty. And I think we owe it to them.
Sure. Thank you so much. So, just to summarize, Sahil, behavior should be in line with the values, creating a space for respectful dissent, and ideological bullying creates trust deficit. So, very important points there, making it clear that honesty is truly important to create that psychological safety for the culture. So, thank you so much. This brings us to the last question, Sahil, which is how do we prepare leaders to navigate the paradox of transparent world where every decision is scrutinized and every misstep can have a viral impact on talent attraction and retention?
It's true. And I think this is such a powerful question, Neha, because in 2025, we have seen that even internal meetings are secretly being recorded by employees and then they go viral on social media. So the entire distinction between saying that I'm saying this only in a closed room and what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas versus saying I'm at an annual general body meeting or I'm at a trust or a shareholder meeting and therefore this is being recorded and this is going public or it is streaming live on YouTube, that gap has actually significantly reduced because today you don't know who is recording you where and where does that go. And once it goes viral, there is no way of stopping that. So I think leaders need to understand that they are no longer managing people, they are also managing perception. And when perception turns negative, their job becomes even more difficult. And therefore, I think leaders need to also realize that they are always in the spotlight. Number one. Number two, transparency of communication to whatever extent possible within the guidelines is very, very important. I think for long enough, we have been in the space where we had the pressure of saying we've got this right. but it's absolutely okay to display a certain level of vulnerability. And I think vulnerability expressed by leaders with a plea for help or an ask, they're saying, hey guys, I haven't encountered something like this before in my career. I'm not quite sure how we do it. Have any of y'all in your previous organizations done something to this effect? Or can we just sit together and spend an hour or two brainstorming on what we should do in a situation like this? Doesn't make the leader small. It actually makes the leader more respected because you are co creating, you are sitting together and brainstorming, and the team also feels involved, not just in the outcome, but also in the impact.
Sure. Thank you so much, Sahil. Truly thought provoking. You said that for leaders, it's important to understand that they are always in the spotlight. Transparency of communication is very crucial. Last but not the least, display of certain level of vulnerability creates that, setting trust between the team members. So thank you so much. This brings us to the end of this masterclass. It was a pleasure having you. Thank you for your candid insights and very perspective shifting conversation, I would say. You have reminded us that transparency isn't just about revealing everything. It's about leading with honesty and, accountability in ways that strengthen the trust and social contract of work. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Neha, and wish you, the entire team at HRAI, and your respective families a very, very Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and a fantastic 2026.
Thank you so much, Sahil. Wishing you the same. Looking forward to seeing you again. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Yeah, bye bye.